What's going on, Chemical Guys family? Thanks so much for tuning in for today's episode. A lot of you guys have been asking us what's the best way to remove deep scratches and swirls, and also what's the fastest way. And I know a lot of you guys want to know how to use a rotary polisher. So today we brought in this BMW because it has a ton of scratches and swirls, and we're going to show you how to properly remove those using a rotary polisher. So today we've set up a few things here to remove those scratches and swirls and also revive that deep gloss finish. So we're going to be using VSS, which is an all-in-one scratch and swirl remover, which means it's a one-step polish that starts off kind of aggressive, then it breaks down and it refines your clear coat to give you that smooth finish. And as I mentioned, we're going to be using a rotary polisher, our TORQ R, which again is a rotary. And that means that it's going to oscillate or spin in one direction only. This way you're going to generate the proper friction and heat to remove deep imperfections very quickly, but also this is a great tool if you're looking to kind of hone your detailing skills, or if you're going to the next level of your detailing experience. Rather than using a dual action, which takes a little bit longer, this is a very quick way and also a more precise way to remove those imperfections, and also gives your car that more professional look. Now before we move on to any kind of polishing things, you want to be sure that you've already washed the vehicle and clayed it, which this car has already been done. Earlier we washed it to remove any of the loose dirt and debris that was on the surface, just so we're not scratching or causing any kind of marring as we polish. And then we use a light clay bar to remove any of the deep embedded contaminants that give your paint that rough feel and rough look. But for today we're going to be focusing just on the polishing steps using a rotary. So to begin, we're going to take our VSS and shake it up just to mix up the entire solution together. And then we're going to apply 5 dime-sized dots to the pad, which is about the size of 1 hex. And this will give you the proper amount of product to break down the scratches and swirls or refine your clear coat. But as you polish, you want to make sure that your machine is completely flat at all times. This way you're not creating a hot spot, or on a rotary especially where it's going to create a lot of heat. You don't want to create a hot spot on the edge where it could potentially burn or mar the paint. So keep it flat at all times, but also you don't want to apply any kind of a pressure to a rotary polisher because it does generate a lot of heat, which means that it could, again, potentially harm the paint. So you just want to lift it with your opposing hand and then use your dominant hand to control the direction. And we're also going to use our pad conditioner to moisten the pad. This will help reduce any kind of friction, so again it's going to cut down on some of that heat. And also, if any of you are wondering, the hole in the center of the quantum pad is also to reduce the heat because it starts at the center and it works its way out, so this is where it's going to generate the most heat, but if you remove that you don't have to worry about as much heat, so that's why we have it like that. So now we're going to go over to the vehicle and we're going to blotch it out, and on the lowest speed setting we're going to spread it out in the area that we're going to be working on, and then using about the 3rd or 4th speed setting, that's when we're going to be doing our polishing, covering about 50% of our last pass to ensure that we have an even removal of product, and also we're going to be giving it the uniform shine. But also, whenever you're using a rotary polisher, you want to make sure that you turn it on before you actually place it on the vehicle, because if you turn it on as it's laying on the vehicle, it's going to create a swirl in that one area. So it's kind of like hitting the ground running, where you're just going to be spinning and then you go right into your polishing job, as opposed to using a dual action or a random orbital where you turn it on the vehicle to prevent a kind of splatter, because it does have a unique way of spreading polish out. So now we're going to move over to the vehicle and we can start our polishing job. So to begin, we're going to start polishing the hood. This is an easy place to start with if you're learning how to polish or if you're honing your polishing skills, because you can see all the kind of imperfections that you're making or removing. It's a lot easier to work on as opposed to, say, the roof or the trunk. This is just a great way to, kind of get a feel for the machine, also how to work along with body lines. And speaking about that, a lot of people ask what's the best way to get in areas such as this where the bodies change or contours, and the recommendation that I'm going to give you is to never sit on these edges or these body lines. This is where the paint's going to be thinner, and obviously when you're using a rotary, it can remove that paint very quickly, and that's where you're going to start to see burns, which look like melted paint, or it'll look like it's gone all the way down to your primer. So avoid sitting on those edges, but what I would say doing is break the hood up into sections. So the flat panel, obviously that's a very easy one, that can be one section, and then you want to work up to this body line. This will be a second section, and then you can switch down to smaller pad sizes for this 3rd section here, where it's going to give you the most radical curve. And again, you want to avoid sitting on any kind of body lines, or where the hood changes to the fender and things like that. You want to avoid sitting on those as well, because that's where the paint's going to be the thinnest, and that's also where it can do the most damage. So to begin, we're going to blotch this out. I like to work from the center out in about a 2-foot by 2-foot section. And our cameraman was actually asking, why does paint scratch so easily? And I wish I knew a better answer for that, but realistically, paint is just really sensitive to any kind of touching or any kind of washing. So the less amount of time you touch the vehicle, the longer your shine is going to last. I know a lot of people ask us, how do you make a polish last? When in reality, it's not the polish that's lasting. It's just that the proper techniques that are used in the vehicle are what help the car look its best for as long as possible. So if you wash it properly using linear motions or using a lot of foam, that's going to help reduce the chances of scratching it during the washing process. And also using clean and soft microfiber towels as you dry it or buff it off, that'll prevent any kind of new installations of scratches and swirls as well. But now we're going to begin by turning the machine on, and then we're going to slowly spread this out. And then I said we're going to use about the 3rd speed setting to actually start breaking down the polish, but we want to make sure that it goes completely clear or translucent. This way we know that it's done its job, and then we can buff it off and check our work. So now that VSS has gone clear, or basically translucent, we're wiping it off with a clean microfiber towel. This way we can check our work, and also this way we can see anywhere that we may have missed. But you can see that we've got this nice deep gloss going here. It's a huge transformation from the chalky or the duller side where all the scratches are. But that's because the way that the light collects all those scratches and swirls, it gives you more of that grayer look, especially on black vehicles. But after removing it and refining that finish, now we have this beautiful deep gloss. But one other thing that I wanted to focus on today is the possibilities of correcting chips, which I know a lot of you guys asked for, or really deep scratches using the rotary polisher. So we're going to jump over there where there's a chip that's been fixed with some touch-up paint, but now it's all blotchy, so we're going to sand it down and polish it to give it that even finish like the rest of the vehicle. So now over here, as I mentioned, the owner has a small area that had a chip, and they used a little bit of touch-up paint to kind of fill that in. But it looks a little bit blotchy, and also it doesn't blend with the rest of the fender. So what we're going to do here is take some 3000 grit sandpaper and some regular deionized water, and we're just going to help knock that down, and then we'll polish it to remove any of the high spots or any kind of the dulling that's going to be caused by the sanding. But the 3000 grit is just a very fine abrasive. This is what we use for headlight restoration, but it's great for knocking down any kind of touch-up paint or any areas that don't exactly blend. What we're looking for is an even keel. As you look there, you can see it's getting smooth, and there's still a little bit of ring of where the touch-up paint was at. So that's what we're going to keep our eye on. We don't want to go all the way through any kind of clear coat or go down to substrate, so you want to be very cautious when you're doing this. Keep the pad nice and lubricated. Also, I've taped off the area around it just so we're not causing any kind of scratches or, sanding areas we shouldn't be. And also, we don't want to go too far down where we're going to pull the touch-up paint out of the chip, so keep that in mind. It may not be 100%, but this will help blend it all together for a smoother, even finish. And as you can see, there's a little bit of that chalky buildup. That's actually the clear coat coming out. And that should be good enough right there. So what we're going to do now is go back to our polishing machine. We're going to use the rotary still, and we're going to help blend this all back together and reveal that high shine. So guys, let's recap of what we've done today. Today we used our TORQ R rotary polisher to remove the deeper scratches and swirls using VSS, which is a one-step polish, and that means that you only need one product to remove those scratches and swirls. Now that doesn't mean you don't need to wash and clay the car. Those are just the steps necessary to prep for the polishing steps. But the VSS broke down any of the scratches and swirls in the clear coat to refine a gloss finish and also to enhance that depth. And we also used V34 to remove the touch-up paint scratches or any kind of scuffs that we may have made while we were wet sanding. This is a great way to remove any kind of orange peel and also reveal a factory finish. So guys, that's where we're going to cut it for today. But if you want to learn more about these products, head over to our website, chemicalguys.com, or to your local detail garage. If you liked today's video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and drop your comments down below for future videos. And we'll see you guys next time.